What's up, it's cinemashogun here, and I already made a couple of videos about it, but just in case you didn't know, there's this new mystery illness that's spreading throughout China that only affects kids. It's a respiratory illness, and they don't know exactly what it is right now. Now, the Chinese government is trying to downplay things. The media, you get a mixed bag. It seems like one side of the media is trying to downplay it. The other side of the media is kind of hyping things up. But what I do know is that if you watched what was taking place in China in the early days of the beer bug, I'm talking before it reached America, before the world was on lockdown. The early days of the beer bug in China, if you saw how they were operating and what measures they were taking then, and you see what they're doing now, it's a carbon copy. And I find that really scary. They're already starting to shut down schools. Mask mandates are back. The social distancing is back. New lockdowns are already on the horizon. And I'm just watching this play out, and hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully this blows over, but I do believe this has the potential to land us back where we were just a few years ago. It's really all up to the media and the powers that be. It's all up to them. If they choose to treat this as seriously as the beer bug, then before you know it, people will be getting jabs, riding around with masks, and we'll all be on lockdown again. Everyone's businesses will shut down. You never know. It's all up to how the powers that be decide to react to this. Here's what I do find very concerning. China reported this to the outside world in late November. I believe it was like November 21st. That's when they alerted the world that this new pneumonia type sickness was spreading rapidly throughout China, right? Well, now it has come out that this illness has been spreading since May, and that China kept it under wraps. China didn't say anything. And from May all the way up until now, no one knew this was going on. China didn't alert anyone. So for months, this illness has been spreading. I'm assuming it's all over the place by now. And I'm watching this like, oh, okay. So you waited for months until, this could possibly spread around the entire world before you reported it. That right there is not okay, But it shows you that these people, these entities, the powers that be that try to pretend like they're taking these illnesses so seriously, they really don't. They really don't. If they were taking this seriously, then the whole world should have been alerted. But no one knew for months on end that this thing has been spreading around. Now, obviously, well, maybe not so obvious for some, but obviously for me, my question is, how much of this is real? How much of this is theater? There's videos pouring out of China. You can see that their hospitals are overwhelmed. Hundreds of parents with their kids, just clogging up the emergency rooms. They're already turning gymnasiums into makeshift hospitals. It's like deja vu, folks. It's like deja vu. It's the beer bug all over again. But before I go any further, I'm going to roll this clip from the news, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Chinese local media reporting hospitals are overwhelmed by mysterious pneumonia that's spreading among kids. That started back in May, but wasn't reported to international bodies until now. Even U.S. Ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, is sounding the alarm, posting on X, quote, China's recent pneumonia outbreak raises serious questions. It's time to abandon COVID deception and delays as transparent and timely information saves lives. Joining us now to discuss is Fox News medical contributor, Dr. Nicole Saphier. Dr. Sapphire, so great to see you, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. So what do you make of this? Because I don't trust the Chinese, but I also don't trust our government, which was, funding the experiments that led to the outbreak of COVID back at the Wuhan lab.
Well, we don't have time to unpack all of that, Rachel, but it is feeling a little bit like deja vu. You have ProMed, the disease surveillance system, who's sounding the alarm again, mentioning that there is a rise in pediatric pneumonia hospitalizations in northern China, especially since October, compared to the last several years. Now, again, Rachel, this is kind of emulating what we saw in the United States, the UK, and other places last year in countries who removed some of those harsh lockdown restrictions earlier than China. We had this large immunity gap where people, especially children's immune systems, were dampened from those COVID lockdowns and other restrictive measures. So we saw a rise in hospitalizations and just outpatient cases of the usual suspects: RSV, influenza, adenovirus, and mycoplasma pneumonia. Now, China is saying it is those usual suspects, those common pathogen that are causing their rise in illness in northern China. The problem is, Rachel, as you said it, we don't trust China. China, the World Health Organization, they were deceitful when it came to COVID-19. And while ProMed started alerting the world in the beginning of December, maybe even the end of November 2019, it wasn't until January 30th that the World Health Organization declared a state of emergency when 115 cases were already documented outside of China. The easy thing for China to do right now is to show the lab results that confirm that these are just the normal pathogens and they're just having the uptick because of that immunity gap. Because at this point, they need to regain trust for anyone to believe them.
But we also need to regain trust in our own government and their response to something like this. So we have held no one accountable. None of the health bureaucrats, starting with Dr. Fauci himself, has been held accountable for having lied to the American people and withholding information. And so here we are with another potential outbreak. And I think the American people, I certainly know as a mom, I don't trust any of these people, not the WHO, not the Chinese, but frankly, I don't think that anyone's learned their lesson in our government because no one's been held accountable.
No, I agree with you. There hasn't been an urgency to hold people accountable. We've had a plethora of hearings, but there has actually been no action to make sure that people are punished for their misdoings. But all I can say as a mother, you know this as well, the best we can do is to try and live our happiest and healthiest lives. And that's making sure our kids are getting good physical activity, good nutrition. And you as an individual decide what is right for your child going into these fall and winter months. There's always going to be a rise in infections. So try to keep them as healthy as possible to prepare, because everyone's going to get sick. It just happens.
Well, I think that's excellent advice. And I think coming out of COVID, that was one of the things that we learned, that the healthier you were, the more you got physical activity, the more you got vitamin D, and we're outside and we're eating well in order to keep your immunities up, that was helpful in fighting off that virus. We'll see what happens in this one. You always give the best advice, Dr.
Now,
Sapphire.
when you see something like this happening, your immediate response would usually be, well, how serious is this illness? Is this illness really bad? What are the effects? What are the symptoms? What's the mortality rate? Is it deadly? Naturally, that's your natural immediate reaction, is to think that, right? But because of everything that's transpired over the last few years, my immediate reaction is not about anything to do with this illness, regardless if this illness is real, fake, how serious it is or not. My question is, how serious is our government and other governments going to pretend to take this situation? How seriously are they going to act about this? Are they going to pretend to take this so seriously, like they did a few years ago when they, implemented all of these stupid, outrageous new laws, rules, and regulations everywhere you go? Oh, you must wear a mask as you walk to the table, and then take your mask off when you sit at the table, take a bite to eat, and then wear a mask again. Or, oh, when you go to the grocery store, there's plexiglass in front of you, and the cashier, even though you're handing them money, I mean, it's so stupid. The one-way aisles at the supermarket, it's also stupid. It was always stupid. It was never going to help you. It was never going to help anything. It was just designed to make you look stupid, to see how compliant you would be with nonsensical rules. And the reality is, most people followed up with it like the sheep they are. They even tried to enforce other people. What are you doing walking the wrong way in the supermarket? What are you doing? Why aren't you staying 6 feet away when you're at Target? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But when I see what's happening in China, my question isn't how serious is this disease? It's what is our government going to do in response? Are they going to pretend like this is the end-all be-all and this is the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity? Are we going to lock down everywhere? Are we going to shut down the whole country while the rich elite still fly around the world and do what they want, but me and you can't go to Dunkin' Donuts, we can't go to Hardee's, we can't go any freaking where? That's my question. And then you see the news that, oh, this has been spreading around since May. No one knew. No one said anything. And I'm watching the mainstream media. They're downplaying it right now. A lot of the outlets are downplaying this right now. And they did the same with the beer bug. They downplay it until it has enough time to spread across the world. And then they pretend like it's the most serious illness of all time. After telling you, oh, it's just walking pneumonia. It's nothing to worry about. This happens all the time. And then 6 months from now, when it's time for an election or it's time for them to push an agenda, they're going to take this illness so seriously. This is what they do. We see it time and time again. Yet people have short-term memory loss. It's like they forget that this same thing happened a few years ago. They're not even trying something new. This isn't even original. But at the end of the day, we're faced with two possibilities here. Either this is a very serious illness that's going to be spreading around and could possibly cause lockdowns like the last time, or this just proves what we were all saying a few years ago, that the social distancing, the wearing masks, all that stuff was bad. It wasn't good for our health. It was bad. Because now, when you're reintroducing these young kids into regular life, their immune systems are weakened. And now they're getting affected and infected by all of these different diseases that they wouldn't have to worry about if they were allowed to play on the playground, if they were allowed to interact with other kids for the last 3 or 4 years. So, one of the two is true. It's just, a matter of time before we find out. Hopefully, this all goes away, gets swept under the rug. But you never know. I can tell you right now that they're popping out new diseases every couple of days, just trying to figure out which one sticks, because they are thirsty. They are itching to do to us what they did a few years ago. That's why every couple of weeks there's this new illness, this new disease, and they're going to keep bringing it up until one of them sticks. Will this be the one that sticks? We don't know. But for now, stick your comments down below in the comment section. If you're feeling generous, you could donate to the channel via Super Thanks, or I have my Cash App pinned in the pinned comment down below. And you can support the channel for free by sharing this video, hitting that like, subscribing, ringing that notification bell. But as always, I'll talk to you all soon in the next video.